Have you ever noticed how some people seem to suffer physically when the world gets too loud? While most people can ignore the buzz of a busy restaurant or the loud music on the bus, they shudder, cover their ears, or even leave the room, as if the sound were an attack. At first glance, it may seem like an exaggeration. After all, it's just noise. But behind this intense reaction, there is a neurological and emotional story that few understand. Before judging it as freshness, it's important to know, it's not drama, it's survival. Their brains don't filter sounds like ours. What for you is a pleasant musical background, for them it is a flood of stimuli that invade without permission. Imagine trying to read a book while 10 people shout different words in your ear. This is more or less how they live in noisy environments. And no, it's not lack of patience, it's as if the world's volume is always at maximum, with no control knob. Science has a name for this: misophonia, when specific sounds trigger anger or anxiety, or hyperacusis, hypersensitivity to sounds in general. But it goes beyond diagnosis. Often, this aversion is rooted in past experiences. Perhaps they grew up in homes where the silence was broken by fights, screams, or abrupt sounds that announced danger. The brain learned, noise equals threat. Others develop this sensitivity after trauma, such as accidents with loud sounds or periods of extreme stress, when the nervous system is on constant alert. There are also those who are simply born with a more sensitive neural network, as if the wires that connect the ears to emotion were thinner and vibrated with any touch. These people tend to be born observers. At a party, while everyone is talking, they notice the clinking of cutlery, the hum of the air conditioning, the loud laughter 3 tables away. No wonder many are artists, writers, or scientists, professions that require attention to details that others ignore. But this same ability comes at a price: exhaustion. They live in a world where the overall volume is always too loud, and the effort to filter what matters consumes mental energy. Therefore, many prefer controlled environments, where they can choose the sounds that enter their lives. Some say it's just adapting, as if it were possible to turn off a part of the brain with willpower. But imagine asking someone with a peanut allergy to just stop having a reaction. It doesn't work like that. What really helps is understanding. Understand that, for them, silence is not a luxury, it is oxygen. That noise-cancelling headphones are not mimimi, they are shields. And when they ask you to turn down the volume, they're not being annoying, they're protecting your sanity. If you are one of these people, no, you are not difficult, nor exaggerated. Your brain just processes the world in a different way, like someone who sees colors that others don't. And if this makes you avoid noisy places or prefer the company of books to crowds, it's not a defect, it's self-preservation. After all, in a world that never stops making noise, knowing when to shut up is a form of wisdom. If you live with someone like this, try something simple: ask what the ideal volume is. Sometimes, all you need to do is turn down the music a little or choose a quieter restaurant to turn a torture into a pleasant moment. Small gestures that, for them, sound like the most beautiful sound in the world, that of respect. And you, how do you deal with the sounds around you? Comment here if you also feel this discomfort or if you know someone like this. Share this text with those who need to understand, or be understood. And if you want more reflections on how our brain interacts with the world, turn on notifications so you don't miss the next ones. Until next time, and may your day be just the right amount of decibels. Headphone. The silence that speaks, when the world is too loud, and how to find your frequency. ENS. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the air vibrating with a sound that only you could hear? It's not the loud music, nor the overlapping voices, it's something more subtle and, at the same time, overwhelming. As if every cutlery hitting the plate, every shrill laugh, or even the hum of the air conditioning were needles piercing a balloon of patience you didn't even know you had. That's right, while some call this freshness or exaggeration, science has a name for it: misophonia, hatred of sounds, or hyperacusis, auditory hypersensitivity. But beyond the technical terms, there's a deeper truth. Your brain isn't broken, it's tuned to a frequency that most people don't pick up on. And it's not just about sound. It's about the weight of things unsaid. That colleague who chews with her mouth open isn't just eating, she's stealing your peace. The neighbor who turns on the sound at 7 a.m. isn't just listening to music, he's invading your mental space. For you, It's not just a noise, it's a sensory violence, as if someone is scratching at a painting that only you can see. What your brain is trying to tell you, and why no one else understands. Imagine your nervous system as an old radio, the kind with tuning knobs. While most people live with the volume set to 5, comfortable, predictable, yours is set to 8 or 9, picking up even interference that others ignore. It's not a defect. It's a superpower disguised as a nuisance. Studies show that people with heightened hearing sensitivity have more neural connections in areas linked to emotion and memory, which is why an innocent sound can trigger anxiety or anger. An overactive amygdala, the brain's alarm center, which interprets common stimuli as threats. Associated memories, that fork scratching the plate reminds you of your parents' fight in childhood, the dog barking, the time you got lost on the street. But here's the plot twist. That same sensitivity that makes you suffer from traffic noise also allows you to hear what others don't hear. False intonation in an excuse. The heavy silence before bad news. The music that no one else notices in the wind. You are not fragile, you are a frequency translator. Society wasn't made for you, and that's not your problem. We live in a world obsessed with stimuli, notifications, advertisements, side conversations, ambient music everywhere. For 80% of people, this is normal. For you, it's a daily guerrilla war. And then comes the guilt. Why can't I deal with this like everyone else? The answer is simple. Because everyone doesn't exist. The norm is a statistical illusion. If you were a plant, you would be an orchid, not a weed that grows anywhere, but a flower that needs specific conditions to flourish. And guess what? Orchids are the most valuable plants in the world. The problem is not you. It is a world that romanticizes the noise, but a good party is loud, ignores silence, as if stillness were boredom, confuses sensitivity with weakness, when, in fact, it is intensity. How to survive, and even enjoy, a world too loud. 1. Create your sensory survival kit. It's not frills, it's self-preservation. Always have on hand noise-cancelling headphones, not just for travel, they're your invisible shield. High-reduction earplugs, those used on construction sites, yes, they save lives. White noise playlists, rain, ocean waves, to mask invasive sounds. An emergency code with people nearby, e.g. I'm in the red equals I need to leave now. Top tip, if someone scoffs, wow, what drama, respond, you'd wear glasses too if you couldn't see well. That's the same thing. 2. Choose your environments like an art curator. You don't need to avoid the world, you just need to edit it. Prioritize places. With friendly acoustics, carpets, curtains, fabric walls absorb sounds. Outside peak hours, restaurants at 3 p.m., supermarkets at 10 a.m. With safe zones, tables in the corner, seats near the exit. Practical example, instead of dinner in a crowded restaurant, suggest a picnic in the park, open air dilutes sounds. Swap the cinema for subtitled sessions at home, you control the volume. 3. Turn your sensitivity into a weapon. What bothers you can be your biggest differentiator. People like you. Detect lies by tone of voice. Studies show that misophonics have greater accuracy in identifying false emotions. They are creative. Artists like Franz Kafka and Virginia Woolf had extreme hearing sensitivity. They have keen empathy, because they capture nuances that others ignore. Exercise. Write down for a week the sounds that irritate you and what triggers them. You can discover patterns, e.g. repetitive sounds give me anxiety because I remember my mother banging pans when she fought with my father. Self-knowledge is the first step to mastering your super hearing. 4. Educate, without blaming, those who live with you. It's not selfishness, it's non-violent communication. Instead of crossmark stop chewing so loud, my God. Try white heavy checkmark babe, I have a weird thing about chewing sounds. It's not you, it's my brain. Can we try eating in silence for 10 minutes? Magic quote, this isn't about you, it's about how my nervous system works. But I appreciate you trying to understand. Silence is not empty, it's where magic happens. In 2011, Finland launched a tourism campaign with the slogan, Silence, please. It was no irony, in a noisy world, silence became a luxury. And you, who suffer from the extra decibels, are a guardian of this treasure. Think about the deeper things in life. The first kiss has no soundtrack. The revelation of a secret happens in a whisper. Peace after a storm is made of the absence of sound. You don't hate all sounds, just the ones that steal your attention from what really matters. And that, my friend, is not a defect. It's an invitation to live in high definition. Your challenge this week. 1. Identify one sound that irritates you and one sound that calms you down. X. I hate car horns, but I love rain hitting the window. 2. Create a silence ritual. 5 minutes a day without auditory stimuli, no music, no podcast. Just you and the world. 3. Share this text with someone who has already called you annoying because of noise. And write in the comments, which sound makes you want to disappear from the map? And which one makes you feel at home? To reflect. The world is too noisy for us to hear each other. But you hear even what is left unsaid. And that, more than anything, is a gift. Until next time, guardian of lost decibels. Headphone sparkles. P.S. If you've made it this far, it's because it resonated with you. Save this text for the days when you feel too much in a world you don't understand. And remember, your sensitivity is not a burden. It's a unique signature of how you experience life. The silence that speaks louder than any sound. Have you ever noticed how some silences carry more weight than a scream? I'm not talking about that empty, hollow silence that fills waiting rooms or elevators. I'm talking about the dense silence, the one that settles between two people who understand each other without words, or that hangs over a decision that hasn't yet been made. It is the kind of stillness that is not the absence of sound, but the presence of meaning. Think about the last time someone looked you in the eye and said nothing. It wasn't discomfort, it was an entire conversation in code. Or that night when you woke up at 3 a.m. and the world was so quiet that even your own heart felt too loud. This silence was not empty, it was an invitation to hear something only you could hear. What your silence says about you. 1. Defensive silence. You remain silent when other people's words are knives disguised as opinions. Example, in family discussions, you prefer to swallow. Are the sharp answer because he knows that peace, even false, is worth more than reason. What this reveals, you value harmony over victory, but be careful, being too silent can turn you into a ghost in your own life. 2. Creative silence. You need noise-free mental space to connect ideas. Example, your best solutions come in the shower, driving alone or looking out the window. What it reveals, your brain works in the background, like a computer processing data while you pretend to be doing nothing. 3. Strategic silence. You remain silent to observe, because you know that those who talk too much often lose control of the narrative. Example, in meetings, you wait for others to get tired of hearing your own voice before releasing a sentence that changes the direction of the conversation. What this reveals, you play chess while others play checkers. 4. Wounded silence. You stop talking when other people's words hurt too much to respond. Example, after a fight, you disappear for days not out of stubbornness, but because picking up the pieces of self-esteem requires solitude. What it reveals, your resilience has a limit, and you know that some battles are not yours to fight. The danger of romanticizing silence. Society glorifies those who speak little, but when they speak, it is profound. But muting too much can be a trap. You become invisible. In groups, your lack of voice is interpreted as a lack of opinion, and not as a choice. You swallow things you should spit out. Anger, frustration, love, everything becomes a lump in your throat. You lose the practice of expressing yourself. Even the simplest words start to hurt when they come out. The balance. Learning that silence is a power, but expressing yourself is a necessity. Your challenge this week, advanced version. 1. Identify your toxic silence. That moment when you remain silent out of fear, shame or resignation, e.g. not asking for a raise, not saying I love you first, not correcting an injustice. Key question, what do I gain by keeping quiet here? And what do I lose? 2. Try active silence. For 3 days, don't talk for the sake of talking. Before you respond, ask yourself, does this need to be said? By whom? To whom? Observation. You will realize how many conversations are social noise and how many are worth your energy. 3. Break a silence that has lasted too long. Send that message you've been putting off for months. Say that no that you're choking on. Tell that secret that only you know, even if it's just to the mirror. Reminder: courage is not about not being afraid. It's talking despite him. 4. Create a silence diary. Write down when you shut up and regretted it. When you spoke and wished you had shut up. Pattern that will emerge. You will discover which silences are wisdom and which are prison. To reflect and take for life. The world teaches that those who don't speak are not heard. But the truth is that those who don't listen have nothing to say. You, after reading this. Final question. What silence do you most fear breaking? The one of truth? The one of forgiveness? The one of goodbye? And which silence do you most need to protect? That of your peace? That of your creativity? That of your essence? Until next time, guardian of unspoken words, Milky Way. P.S. If you saved this text, it's because something here resonated like an echo in your soul. Save it for the days when you feel like your silence is a burden. Remember, the most interesting people I met weren't the ones who talked the most, but the ones who chose their words like someone choosing jewelry one at a time, and only the ones worth the wait. PPS, comment here. When was the last time you should have kept quiet, but you did? And when was the last time you should have spoken, but remained silent? The answers will surprise you. The silences that speak louder than words. Silence as a mirror, what you don't say reveals who you are. You. Have you ever noticed how some silences weigh more than screams? I'm not talking about those moments of natural stillness when conversation fades or the mind wanders. I'm talking about those charged silences, the ones that leave a metallic taste in the mouth, as if the unspoken words were swallowed coins. Note this. The silence that you protect is your refuge. The silence you break is your revolution. And here's the naked truth: how you deal with silence defines the limits of your personal power. The cartography of the unsaid. 3 types of silence that shape your life. 1. The silence shield, when silence is survival. Have you ever remained silent to avoid a war? I'm not talking about silly conflicts, I'm talking about those times when talking would be like pouring gasoline on a fire. Silence, at these times, is not weakness, it is a preservation strategy. Real examples. The argument with the boss that you swallowed to avoid losing your job. Criticism of the family that you kept so as not to break ties. The political opinion you omitted to avoid losing friendships. But be careful, when this silence becomes a habit, it turns into a cage. You start to live in permanent defensive mode, and then, my friend, prison is not the bars, it is the key that you threw away. The first silence we betray is our own. Then we betray everything else. You, after reading this. 2. Silence weapon, when silence is an attack. This is the most dangerous silence. It is not passive. It's not fear. It's cold revenge. How to recognize it? You keep silent to punish. Your silence is a punishment, a way of making the other feel the weight of your absence. You use the unsaid like a knife that only you hold. Problem: this weapon always turns on you. Because while you think you're controlling the situation, resentment is corrupting your insides. Silence as a weapon doesn't just hurt the target, it poisons whoever wields it. Whoever uses silence to hurt ends up discovering that the only voice they silenced forever was their own life, at some point. 3. The silent seed, when silence is creation. This is the silence of artists, of wise men, of those who understand that some things are only born in emptiness. Where it appears. Before a big decision, that moment when you stop everything to listen to your intuition. In creation, writers, musicians, inventors know, noise kills inspiration. In healing, sometimes forgiveness doesn't need words, just time and stillness. Secret: this silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of meaning. It's the space where important things grow. The greatest answers in life did not come from those who spoke most, but from those who knew how to shut up at the right moment. The universe, in one breath. The great paradox: why are we afraid of silence? Society has taught us that Whoever doesn't speak, doesn't exist. Those who don't have an opinion don't matter. Whoever doesn't scream, isn't heard. But here's the bombshell truth. The world is saturated with noise. Everyone talks, few say anything. Everyone has an opinion, few think. Everyone screams, few are remembered. Silence, today, is the new luxury. It's the space where souls meet, because it's only when we stop talking that we start listening. Radical exercise, the 7 Silences Challenge. Over the next 7 days, choose a type of silence to practice, not out of obligation, but as an experiment in self-knowledge. 1. Digital silence. 1 day without social media. Observe what appears when other people's noise disappears. 2. Relational silence. In a conversation, listen without preparing your response. Just listen. 3. Creative silence. 30 minutes without music, podcast, or TV. Let the mind wander aimlessly. 4. Emotional silence. When you feel angry, count to 10 before speaking. See what changes. 5. Existential silence. Before bed, ask, what do I avoid saying to myself? 6. Social silence. In a group, be quiet and observe. Who dominates the conversation? Why? 7. Silence. Sacred IO. Close your eyes and ask your future self, what would you like me to stop keeping quiet about? Important notices. You're going to hate some of these silences. Excellent. This means they are touching something real. Some people will find your silence strange. Perfect. This proves that they were used to occupying their space. In the end, you will discover that silence is not empty, it is the place where the most important things happen. The question that will haunt you, and you need to answer. Look back over the past 12 months and answer. What was the silence that cost you the most? The unspoken truth. The undeclared love. The unannounced exit. What was the silence that saved you the most? The fight you avoided. The decision that matured in stillness. The pain you didn't feed with words. Now, the question that hurts. If you died tomorrow, what silences would you regret carrying? Silence as a legacy. Think about this. People don't remember everything you said. They remember how they felt around you. A silence full of judgment leaves marks. A silence full of compassion heals wounds. A silence filled with presence becomes a hug that lasts for years. Your greatest power lies not in what you say, but in what you choose not to say and how that unsaid resonates with others. Until next time, archaeologist of silence's amphora. P.S. Save this text. Come back to it when you feel like your words are suffocating rather than liberating. Remember, the most powerful people I've met were not the ones who talked non-stop, but the ones who knew when silence was the most eloquent response. PPS, answer in the comments, what was the silence you broke and regretted? And what was the silence you kept and are grateful for today? The answers will reveal patterns that you didn't even know existed. PPPS, if this text touched you, share with someone who needs to hear that being quiet is not weakness sometimes, it is the bravest way to exist.